In May of 2024, Congress passed a new law authorizing funding for the FAA, which included changes to the BasicMed program that allows many pilots to maintain their flight privileges. The law gave the FAA 180 days after passage to make these changes official, and so we'll cover those changes, which went live on November 12th of 2024. First, let's review the provisions of BasicMed which are not changing with the new law. If you qualify for BasicMed, you don't need to have an active third class or any other medical from the FAA, but you do still need to have at least held a certificate at some point. That medical has to have been issued no earlier than July 15, 2006, and the most recent one you have can't have been denied, revoked, or suspended, so new pilots still need to go and get at least their first medical from an FAA aviation medical examiner. There are some changes to how deferrals for some medical issues are done. Sometimes pilots come into the medical office with issues that aren't necessarily disqualifying, but need special vetting by the FAA. The FAA is now telling doctors to issue an initial denial to applicants until their paperwork is reviewed. This change isn't part of the new BasicMed program, but it was included in the same FAA Reauthorization Act. A reading of this change on its face suggests that a denial disqualifies pilots for the BasicMed program until their application is accepted. As these legal interpretations are still evolving, it's worth keeping an eye on how these issues will be handled. In lieu of the FAA medical, applicants still need to undergo a physical exam by a state-licensed physician, in other words, their own preferred doctor, and that must be done every 48 calendar months. In addition, the pilot has to do a self-assessment of their medical fitness to fly every 24 calendar months. Pilots still can't fly under BasicMed for compensation or hire. Flight instruction, including when you're being paid, is not considered flight for compensation or hire. This isn't something in the BasicMed law, but it's just a reading of the nature of flight instruction that predates these laws. Finally, there's no change to the speed and altitude limitations. You have to stay below 18,000 feet MSL, and you can't fly faster than 250 knots indicated airspeed. So here's what is changing to expand the privileges of BasicMed. First, the passenger limitation is going up. Previously, you were limited to no more than 5 allowable passengers. Be aware that this never meant you could fly an airplane that had like 8 passenger seats as long as you had fewer actual passengers on board. The language allowable passengers refers to the aircraft itself, not the specifics of any one flight. Now, that limitation is being raised to 6 allowable passengers. By extension of this change, the total occupant limitation, passengers plus pilot, is going from 6 occupants to 7. The biggest change is the size of the aircraft covered. Previously, we were limited to aircraft with max takeoff weights no more than 6,000 pounds. This has gone up to aircraft up to 12,500 pounds, almost anything you don't need a type rating for. A small caveat is that transport category rotorcraft aircraft are not covered under BasicMed. Finally, in the past, examiners weren't allowed to fly under BasicMed when conducting a check ride or a proficiency check. This has been changed in a special section of the legislation to allow DPEs to conduct tests with just BasicMed. I hope this helps with DPE availability, make it so more examiners can give more check rides. So that's a rundown of the changes that have gone into effect. As the BasicMed program gets older and more pilots participate, the hope is that the evidence will support expanding privileges even more. Stay on top of all your important flight concepts with us at Flight Insight by visiting our site linked here and in the description, and checking out one of our full online ground schools today.